Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another value-packed TenantCloud podcast. If you want to be a more informed, better educated, and successful landlord, then stay tuned. With over a decade of property management experience, we bring you short and sweet, bite-sized pieces of incredibly valuable property management tidbits in 15 minutes or less. You do not want to miss out on this podcast about how successful DIY landlords take control of their schedule and take their life back. Let's get started. Today we're going to jump right in and get into the topic of time management and how successful DIY landlords take control of their schedule. As a DIY landlord, you know that the property management industry and the property management role that you play is and can be time consuming. It can take up a lot of your schedule and it can really affect your personal life and your personal time, and it can really eat into that and really take away from your daily or weekly routine. And so we want to discuss a few tips today that successful landlords use to take back their time, get their personal life back, separate their personal and their business life, and really manage their time efficiently. So the first one that I want to go over with you is you want to make a list. Now this seems so simple and it seems so cliche, but it's so true. You have to make a list. If you have numerous tasks to complete in a day, you need to identify the most urgent ones and deal with them first. This has to do with prioritization. And it's difficult to prioritize if you don't first have a list in order to look at to understand what your day and your week and your month consists of so that you can accurately prioritize it. You've all heard of the prioritization method of looking at things as pebbles and stones and sand. And the way that whole story goes is you have a small container and you have to fit all these pebbles and all these stones and this pile of sand and this pile of stones into this container. And how do you do that? Well, first you take, instead of putting the sand in and then the sand fills up the lower level and then you put the pebbles in and the pebbles just kind of sit on top of the sand, and then you pour the big rocks in and they kind of sit on top of the little pebbles, and then you don't have any room for the rest of the big rocks. And so those big rocks can't fit inside the container. And so looking at those big rocks as the big items that you need to complete, what's the correct way of doing that? Well, you put in the big rocks first, and then you pour in the little pebbles, which kind of fall into the crevices and the cracks between the rocks and fill up all the empty spaces. And then you pour the sand in, and the sand fills in even the smaller crevices and cracks inside the container where the pebbles didn't take up. And so you're able to fit everything together into this small, limited space container. And so you have to look at your day and your week and your month like that. And the best way to do that is to put it on a list first and then prioritize it, and then make sure that you have enough time to take care of the big, important things. Now, keep in mind that if you put those little rocks and the sand items, you keep pushing it off too far in advance, then the pebbles can become big rocks because you've put that one thing off so long. Well, now there's a deadline that's coming up, and it was a pebble a month, 2 months ago, or a week, or 2 weeks, or a day, or 2 days ago, but now it is a big rock. And so you need to understand that when you're making a list like that, that you stick to it once you've prioritized it, and you stick to those priorities. And so just making sure that you make a list first is extremely important. So sit down with either a physical pen or paper or a list app. There's an app called Todoist, or Evernote is another good one. And so just make sure that you have a way to create a list and prioritize your day, whether that's a physical pen and paper or it is an app that you can take with you on your mobile device wherever you are. Second thing is you want to set clear long-term goals. Once your daily routine comes naturally, you want to establish long-term goals to define your next steps. You don't want to set general abstract objectives. you might not be able to visualize the final result. Instead, you want to have a clearly defined plan which will help you to reach your ultimate goals. So setting 1, 2, 5, 10-year goals that are very specific. Instead of saying, for instance, you want to have a passive income stream that you can live off or after retirement, do the math and figure out how much that will actually take. If you need $50,000 a year to be comfortable, how many rental properties will you need to own in order to be generating that type of revenue? And so successful landlords are good at establishing those thorough and detailed plans, such as those financial plans, before getting into renting out properties. They understand what they need to do and what they need to do to get there. And it helps to use accounting software that's specific for landlords to keep track of monthly income and expenses so you don't get lost in those finances, especially during tax season. That could become a nightmare. And that's a cool thing about TenantCloud is TenantCloud offers that type of accounting within the software platform that automatically helps you manage and track your monthly income and expenses, so that when it does come to filing your taxes or tracking your income and expenses in reports and being able to get a snapshot of that, it's all right there. You don't have to worry about compiling the information and gathering all these reports. TenantCloud pretty much does that automatically for you. And so we do encourage you to set clear long-term goals. And while you're setting those long-term goals, in order to make them clearer, you need to set the shorter-term goals, which help you to better understand what you need to do and the steps you need to take to get to and achieve those long-term goals. That brings us to step 3. Don't procrastinate. I know that's a hard one for me. It's a hard one for a lot of people, is not procrastinating. Whether it's just a fear of failure or laziness or whatever it is, procrastination is the fastest way to stall progress. And that's especially true for people in the real estate industry, because time is of the essence in the real estate industry. And putting off important tasks can lead to a heavy workload and chronic stress later on. So you want to make sure that when you've developed your long-term goals and you've developed your short-term steps and tasks that you need to take to achieve those long-term goals, and you've put it down on a list and you've prioritized it, now you have to actually execute those actions and take action and not procrastinate, because it will catch up to you and it will deter you and possibly even prevent you from reaching those goals that you have set. Step number 4, it's okay to seek help. The most successful DIY landlords take advantage of automating things. And what I mean by automating things is such as like on the TenantCloud platform, for instance. TenantCloud platform is an all-in-one property management software, and a lot of the things on there are automated. For instance, recurring invoicing and the emailing of the fact that you've posted a recurring invoice, and the emails that get sent out if a tenant is late. Like, none of those things in this day and age should be manual processes. You should not be manually generating a list based on a report of people who have not paid rent, and you need to send out an email to them to say, hey, your rent is late. You should not have to be generating a list of emails of people where you've posted an invoice, and now you have to manually go and send out an email saying, hey, we've posted your invoice, you can pay it now. None of those things should be a manual process in 2019. It just shouldn't be, that shouldn't be the case. Tracking maintenance issues and automatically sending tenants updates, that should not be a manual process. And none of those things are in TenantCloud, which is why the TenantCloud platform is so powerful, because when an invoice posts, it sends the tenant an email saying the invoice is posted automatically. When an invoice is due, the system tells the tenant via notification in an email, your invoice is due. If a tenant hasn't paid an invoice and it's become past due, the system notifies the tenant and it sends them an email and says, hey, your invoice is past due. You're getting late fee invoices now. And when you receive a maintenance request and you move it to in progress, it sends the tenant an automatic notification saying, hey, your maintenance request is in progress. We're working on it. And when you move it to a completed status, it sends the tenant a notification saying, hey, this maintenance request has been completed. And so the tenant knows that when they get home from work or whatever, to check on the status of their maintenance request to make sure that it was in fact updated. And if not, they can message you via TC Messenger built into TenantCloud, and you get notification of that. And so it's all these little things, which are not really little things because they eat away at the time throughout your day. But with a platform that automates it, all of that stuff is taken off of your plate. And it's incredible how much time adds up when you have to do all these little tasks and these manual functions throughout the day, that they're essential because you have to communicate, you have to send notices, you have to let tenants know when rent has been posted or when it's due or when it's past due. You need to let your tenant know that a maintenance request has been updated. But it's incredible if that can be automated, and on TenantCloud it is. And so by saying it's okay to seek help, it is okay to seek help, and it's also essential that you delegate. If you have people on your team, it's essential that you understand how to delegate daily tasks to other people and get stuff off your plate. And by delegating, in order to successfully delegate, to really take it off of your plate and to get it off of your schedule, is you also have to be able to let go of that thing, and training other people to make sure that they're able to do the things that you're able to do on a daily basis efficiently and do it well, and get that off your plate. So you can't pass something off to somebody else and then constantly be checking in and looking over their shoulder to make sure it's being done up to your level of expectations. Obviously, there is an element to that, but if you're not actually getting it off your plate and you're not actually getting it off your schedule, and you're still sitting there trying to make sure that it's being done a certain way or whatever because you haven't trained the person or you don't have enough trust in somebody else to do it effectively and efficiently on their own, you haven't done yourself any favors. You've actually added work to your plate because now you're having to correct and make adjustments, and you're constantly thinking about that thing. And so in saying that it's okay to seek help, it's only helpful if you're truly getting it off your plate. And so with TenantCloud, it's automated. You don't have to worry about it. With delegating it to other people or outsourcing it, you need to be able to let it go, like truly let it go and get it off your plate and get it off your schedule. And that brings us to our fifth one. Successful landlords get enough rest, and getting enough sleep is essential for the body. There's been plenty of studies done on this by the National Institute of Health about sleep and how it affects your ability to think properly, respond quickly. It affects your cardiovascular health, your energy, your ability to fight infections or generic sicknesses that might, like a typical cold. And just being able to function efficiently throughout the day when the tasks that you are taking care of are demanding the most of you and of your body. And so it's important that you don't neglect rest time, actual physical sleep. And you cannot catch up on lost sleep. That is a myth. You cannot make up for lost sleep during the week by sleeping more on the weekends or when you have free time. Your body does not work that way. The sleep debt, the whole thing, you can't make it up. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the National Institute of Health and their guide to healthy sleep to learn more about that. It is essential. It is important. You need to make sure that you're getting anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And the only way that you can do that is by doing the other steps that we just discussed, which are automating things and delegating things, getting things off your plate. The other item is you cannot procrastinate. You must take action based on your long-term and your short-term tasks, your long-term goals and your short-term tasks that you have to do each day to achieve those long-term goals in the long run. And the only way that you can do all that is by creating a list and prioritizing. So we hope that you found this podcast helpful. This is based off of our recent blog post called How Successful DIY Landlords Take Control of Their Schedule. And you can find that on tenantcloud.com/blog. And that's where you can find all of our latest blogs and posts there, as well as updates from TenantCloud. And If you can go ahead and share this podcast with anybody that you feel would benefit from this information, we would absolutely love that. We thank you for taking the time to listen. We know your schedule is busy. And remember to comment anywhere you are listening to this or on the blog that this podcast is based off of. And also remember, we have a Facebook group just for TenantCloud users on facebook.com. Just search for TenantCloud and join our group and join any discussions we have there and contribute. And we look forward to talking with you next time.